All right, guys, welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, here for another edition of our Daily Drop podcast series. We'll be talking some Carolina hoops in this episode. Going to be talking about some things we're hearing kind of behind the scenes about summer workouts and how things are going with some of the new guys and some of the, again, things we're hearing about their progress so far and maybe what the team could be with some of these new pieces. Because as we've talked about in previous pods, there are a lot of new pieces on that Carolina basketball roster. But AJ, real quickly, let's do some housekeeping items real quick, because it seems like half the world thinks you're retiring. I know. Let me just provide some context. You put out a post, what was it, about a month or so ago now?
Yeah, it was
a little bit over a month, maybe.
It was like May 2nd or 3rd or something like that. It's been a while now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Saying you're kind of planning on stepping away from Tar Heel Illustrated, and things will be coming to an end for Tar Heel Illustrated sometime this summer and everything. So, I mean, just for the people, number one, make sure you keep it locked to all of our social channels. The links are below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, notification bell. We're not going anywhere on the YouTube side, especially because there are some things in the works that are currently being worked on. And I don't know specifically, I'll kick it to you because I don't know specifically what you want to divulge potentially about what your next career move is. And, I'm what potentially my next move will be as well. But there are some things in the works right now, I think is a good place to start with it, at least.
Yeah, we're going to THI, Tar Heel Illustrated, is only got a few more weeks to go, and then it's stopping. There's some merger stuff going on with On3 and Rivals. So the timing was very interesting because I decided I was going to step away from THI, and then a couple of days later, the merger, which I had no idea was coming, was announced.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
And so it's pretty interesting timing, but there's going to be a next move. It's going to be in this space, so to speak. But I can't. But there's still more stuff that needs to be done before that's 100%. Well, trite saying here, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed.
I was literally gonna say that.
And there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be worked out. But I've already agreed in principle, so that will happen. And the only way you're going to find out is through our channel here. But make sure you pay attention to our social media, Twitter /X, which is @Heel Illustrated. There's no S in the middle, @Heel Illustrated. Facebook, we're Tar Heel Illustrated. We're also on IG now. We're not announcing anything there, but I'm throwing up a lot of cool photos and videos and stuff. Did you see I put the video out of them, Carolina taking the field at Boston College in football during the COVID? And they're playing that BC music and stuff, and Tar Heels are running out there, guys with the flag, and there's nobody in the place. There was one security guard in the stadium for that game. It was wild. And there was like 9 people in the press box. It was so wild. Anyway, so IG's got a lot of fun stuff like that. We'll have something. So just stay with us. Mm-hmm. But no, I didn't retire. I don't want to work 363 days a year. And my wife, my daughter and I went to a movie last October. My wife counted that I looked at my phone like 32 times. I don't want to do that.
Only 32.
I want to be in a situation where I don't pull the phone out of my pocket at a movie, if you know what I mean. You understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man, I've lived in
that. You
world.
Understand better than anybody what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I lived in that world full time with you for a couple of years, especially when I first started here. And yeah, man, it's a grind. You can't turn it off. And my job wasn't as nearly as busy and hectic as yours has been for the last 10 years. So,
so I've been looking for opportunities where I could actually have a life balance. And I've been very, very fortunate to have several really nice opportunities come my way that could tap into my different skills. And I've done a lot of different things through the course of my career. So I'm very fortunate that I made some of those decisions that allowed for a multitude of opportunities, a broad span of opportunities to come my way. So
yeah, man, it's exciting times for sure. And again, we wanted to just come on here real quick and kind of clear some things up, because it seems like every day someone's like, I thought you were retiring. Why are you still talking about Carolina?
We had the press conference the other day with Belichick, and I got that a lot, which is fine. I don't mind it because I'm very comfortable. It really felt good to get back there and see a lot of the familiar faces, a lot of the media faces. There's a lot of really good people in the media that cover the area and cover North Carolina. Carolina fans should be very, very grateful that they have such a good contingent in the media. And I felt good being back there. I'm not ready to walk away. I got a ton of tread on the tires still. I just didn't want to do that specific job anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I'm fortunate I don't have to anymore. But I will say that, we're going to post, even when Tar Heel Illustrated gets lopped off, is done. You and I are going to do videos throughout July. And I'm going to put a lot of stuff on Facebook. We're going to put a lot of stuff on Twitter. We're still going to be very active. We're not just going to walk away and take the month off. I'm actually it's going to give me a great chance to put a ton of time writing my book that I'm working on, and then get ready for what's next. So this is a very long explanation about what's next, but hopefully people listening right now will understand that we're not going away. We're just, jumping the track a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, I think it's the right time to come on here and talk about it, because we've hinted at it in end of some of the podcasts, but I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard it. So that's why we wanted to jump on here real quick and just do some housekeeping items about that, because again, there are some things in the works, and obviously with THI coming to an end soon, I feel like we needed to talk about that a little bit as well. So yeah, make sure, again, just keep it locked. Links in the description to all our social media platforms. And again, subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell too, because we're going to be uploading a ton no matter what. So, all right, man, let's dive into the gist of this podcast. I want to space it up like this, because again, we're going to give some intel on some of the things we're kind of hearing behind the scenes about how some of these summer workouts are going, and talk about some individuals, especially about the new guys in particular, because there's a lot of new faces on this roster. I want to split it up like this. We'll start with the forwards. We'll talk about the guards, and then we'll talk about some of the freshmen. So let's start with the forwards. Two guys I think Carolina fans are extremely excited about, in particular with Henry Vasar and Jaron Stevenson coming in. What are you hearing behind the scenes? Because based on some of our conversations, it seems like those two guys in particular, there's been a lot of, I don't know if praise is the right word, or maybe excitement around what those guys could potentially be, but it seems like all reports about Stevenson and Vasar in particular are extremely positive at the moment.
I was told by one person that if you ever you go somewhere, you see something and it catches your attention, and it's in a very positive way, you're like, hey, this is more than I thought. Mm-hmm. Like a car, boy, this is nice. Mm-hmm. A house, this is nice. That, Mm-hmm. I was told that there is a with Jaron Stevenson. In other words, that, I didn't see that at Alabama. And one of the reasons you didn't see it at Alabama is because it wasn't asked. It wasn't part of the requirement. Mm-hmm. He wasn't the first guy on the team that they wanted to drive. He wasn't the first guy on the team they wanted to play baseline. He wasn't the first guy on the team that they were going to post up down there. He was sort of a tweener at Bama, and his greatest attributes, defense. So Nate Oates is like, dude, go play defense and hit some threes. Well, he missed his first 18 three-point attempts last season. So it's hard to be a Nate Oates go hit some threes guy when you're 0 for 18. And when you're 0 for 18, it's like in baseball. You get off to a terrible start. It takes you forever. You could be hitting 350 for a month, and Johnny's hitting 242. Doesn't look like he's having a great year.
Would it be accurate to say that he was a role player at Alabama? Is that
100%, because he didn't start every game. He started a lot of them, but he didn't start every game. So he was a role player, defense. And look, I've gone on record, and I will say it again. I think Carolina got better defensively this year through the portal. Now, I'm not sure they got better rebounding. I'm not sure they got better overall. They might not be as good next season as they were this past year. But I will say right now, they got better defensively. That is an absolute, and unless they screw it up. They got better defensively, and Jaron's a huge part of that, because his ability to guard the 3 and the 4 with that length and that ability. If there's a 4 that likes to go baseline, Jaron Stevenson's guarding the 4. He's going to do the Dean Smith thing. That foot's going to touch the baseline, and the dude's going to only have one way, and it's going to go in, and there's going to be a trap that comes if Carolina plays the right way. So Jaron is going to be an asset in that respect. But what I'm hearing is that there is a drive, there is a slash in his game that nobody saw at Alabama, which is interesting, Jacob, because the Nate Oates way is threes and layups. But we didn't see a lot of that from Jaron, especially the threes. Close to half or around half of his field goal attempts were from the perimeter. He didn't shoot a ton. He averaged 5.5 points a game. But the game at Texas when he scored 22, there was a little bit of slash in there. So if you go find that film, that's sort of a glimpse of what I've been told they're seeing a lot more of now. They're seeing a guy that's got, there's a little flame under the derriere with the way he's playing. And I wouldn't say that you would describe offensively at Alabama him playing with a flame under the derriere. So I think it's a big time positive if this is more than just I just arrived, I'm going to show these guys, and then it sort of dissipates. Sometimes that happens in human nature with anything, whether it's athletics or anything else. Mm-hmm. We'll see if it continues, but they're pleasant surprise with what people have seen from Jaron Stevenson so far. Also, a 6'10", 6'11" guy running the open court, filling the lanes. This is a lane filling group. We'll talk about that a little bit, but the trigger guy on being a lane filling group that I've been told is that Jaron can get out of there. If he's playing the 3 defensively and Vasar gets a rebound and they turn and kick, you got a 6'10" guy with that stride filling a lane. That's pretty intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it is for sure. What about, let's talk about Henry Vasar, just to stay on the forwards, because again, I think he's a guy we've been incredibly high on. Personally, I think he's Carolina's best pickup in that portal class. That's been my opinion since day one. I think he's going to just have such a big impact. And I think he's a guy that is ready. We saw flare-ups at Arizona and saw the pieces of it, but I think now in a more prominent role at Carolina and the way they want to play, I think he's poised to have just a breakout year for the Tar Heels if all things go to plan this year. So seems like praise for him and excitement for him is pretty high right now as well.
Keep in mind at Arizona, there was a lot of guard dominance there. You got Caleb Love on the floor. Caleb's going to shoot the ball. Now, I thought Caleb was a really good player at Arizona. He was a better player at Arizona than he was at North Carolina. The assist numbers were there, but also a lot of the shots and missed shots and that kind of thing. So there were times when Vasar didn't produce a lot, didn't get a lot of shot opportunities because that. There were also times where he didn't play that well. I think people have to be honest. Sometimes he just he was a guy on the floor and he was running back and forth down the court and there wasn't a whole lot going on. I think he was still finding himself. He was injured early last year and he's a guy who's been adapting to the American game for a few years now. And there's a reason that when David Sisk was just amazing reporting the whole Vasar to Carolina period back in April, that Tommy Lloyd, the head coach at Arizona, was literally pitching Vasar as Big 12 Player of the Year coming back. Mm-hmm. I think people now probably there's enough there under Tommy Lloyd at Arizona to respect him as a coach. And he knows what he's doing. He was under Mark Few. Mark Few's a brilliant basketball coach, brilliant mind. Tommy Lloyd knows what he's talking about, and he's not going to BS a kid in that sense, because there would be a disaster if you bring a kid back and he's nowhere near that and you're not using him that way. So everything that we were told was that was the pitch. It was Arizona, try to be Big 12 Player of the Year, go North Carolina, be on that stage. And Caleb, by the way, an assist to him, point to the passer, Caleb help make that happen. Mm-hmm. The word I've heard about him, about Vasar, is beast. And that's got to be huge, because there were times, he's a Euro. A lot of times beast is not associated with Euros, especially younger. When they get older sometimes, yes. But that wasn't always the case at Arizona. There were times where, all right, Henry's out there. He's a good body. He looks like a guy that might be able to play some. And then he would have stretches where he wasn't a beast. But again, I think he was still finding himself. Part of the great thing about the transfer portal, Jacob, is the new lease on life aspect for players. Henry Vasar's had a new lease on life in a new program, one that's got a lot of good players. It's got all that stuff you're playing for that sits above whenever you're at practice. You just look up, it's all there. Yeah. It's not going anywhere. It's a part of who you are now. And it's a new lease on life for him. And what I was told was beast. Mm. He's a beast. Now, what does that mean? Well, we know he could shoot. They put clips out, and I love our subscribers dearly, and I hopefully we can still deal with them in some capacity down the road. But they're really reading a lot into the clips that Carolina's putting out.
I love
And I love that because they're not going to put out Vasar dropping passes as he rolls to the rim. They're not going to put that stuff out there. However, I do like what they put out there from him because those clips have shown the range in his game, the well-roundedness. He's a pop and pick and pop guy from the top of the key. He's a high-low guy. He's a guy that can roll and score and flush. He finishes at the rim. But what my question mark on him was, how good is he defensively? And how good is he on the glass? Because he doesn't have great rebound numbers for a dude his size. And Arizona played a lot of high shot volume games. So where's the rebounder? Again, the word beast has been presented, and I think part of that is rebounding. Because if you're going to be a beast, it has to show up on the glass. Isn't that really the first place it does? When you think you're young, but when you think of George Lynch, the older guys, what's the first thing you think of? You think of a beast. And what do you think of him being a beast? Number one, rebounding. Number two, his ability to score at the rim. Number three, the back of the 1-3-1 zone in the 93 championship run. That's what you think of with George Lynch. But you think of him being beast, being a tough guy. A guy that if there's something on the court, he's the first one in someone's face. I'm not going to say that's all Vasar, but the word beast makes me think of traits like that.
Same here. Yeah, I think that's the word you want to hear about your, 7'1" center. You want to hear that. You don't want to hear that he's what did Hubert call Jalen Washington last year? AJ cute or something like that?
Adorable.
Yeah, that's especially in hindsight. It's not what you want to hear about one of your starting bigs. And I like Jalen Washington. I think he's going to do a good job.
Yeah, that's also, you got to understand Hubert. Yeah. Now, if Roy would have said adorable, it would have been for the intent of humor. Yeah. And Roy was good at that. Roy had a lot of those humorous drop the mic moments. Hubert doesn't travel in that lane nearly as often.
No.
And adorable was just because Hubert likes him so much. And you know what? Having covered Jalen Washington, talked to him a lot last year, he is a wonderfully nice guy. He's a wonderfully nice guy. So I guess that's where Hubert's adorable came from. There are a few things Hubert might want to take back that he said since he got the job. DeMarco Dunn and Dontre Styles begins there. Yeah. I think adorable is another one too. And that's probably, Jalen was probably, coach, man, what you doing to me? I can't be adorable out there.
Yeah, that's just not what we need, man. That's not what we need. No, I think you're probably right on that. But
if he calls Henry Vasar adorable, that's it, man.
Yeah, I'd be like, that's not what we need to hear right there, man. That is not what we wanted to hear about a 7-foot plus center we got in the portal.
A fairly thick one too. He's put together.
Yeah, he's big. He's a big kid. I think he's poised to have a breakout year for the Tar Heels if all things go as
Did you know he was at one of the baseball games against Arizona? By the way, really? To clarify, I put out a tweet. Who do you think Caleb Love is rooting for? It wasn't a serious question. It was just for fun. Yeah,
just have a little fun with it, man. We can't have a little fun. I mean, you know it is, Ed. You can't have fun on the internet anymore. It's all serious. You can't have fun on the internet anymore.
Especially Facebook. There's a lot of Facebook's an interesting group.
Yeah, it's a very interesting group, to say the least. But yeah, I think again, very positive reports about two of the forward transfers for the Tar Heels, and again, they'll need them to have big years, I think, coming up if Carolina's gonna have a good year as a team. So yeah, that's positive to hear about those guys. Let's move on to a little bit more of the the guard section. A lot of transfers in the guard section as well for Carolina. Kion Evans, Jaden Young for Virginia Tech, Jonathan Powell at the wing. What do you hear about those guys? We can start with Kion Evans because again, that point guard position is the most important place on the court. We've had discussions about, is he, from an assist standpoint, is he what Carolina needs in that respect? Can he distribute the ball enough to really do what this team needs to do with a lot of the shooters they have around them and guys that need to get touches in order to be able to score for the Tar Heels? So we'll start with him and then we can kind of move on to the rest. But what are you hearing about Kion Evans? Because there was also some footage and released of him recently on social media too.
Well, he could score. He's got a great range in the jumper. Everything that you saw on film from Colorado State in that respect is arrived in Chapel Hill. The question is, what kind of playmaker is he? And I still think that that's up in the air. I mean, you can only learn so much in a couple of weeks in June. However, I've been told that there's an IQ in the game there. So what does that mean? If someone's looking at someone as a point guard and they say he's got a pretty good IQ, looks like he's got a good IQ, good feel for the game, that means that he's connected to the other dudes on the floor. That's what that tells me. Now, I haven't seen any of it, but the people I've talked to have. They've seen a lot of it. So you can win big in college basketball these days without having Ed Cota rack up 9 assists a game. You can do it because the game has changed a lot, because you don't run a ton of the sets. In Cota's day, he had Jamison just going back and forth with one block to the other, one block to the other, one block to the other. And Jamison was so good and got so low. Ed would get that bounce pass in there. Antoine's hands were so good. He'd catch, turn, and score quickly before anybody could ever react. Basketball in college right now isn't like that. This North Carolina team's not going to play that way. So you're not going to ask your point guard to make pinpoint stuff inside to big time interior scores as often. However, they still need to facilitate. They can't, the ball can't stagnate when it gets to them. And sometimes that was a problem the last couple of years. It was way too much dribbling on the perimeter. And you become the easiest dude on the planet to guard if you're not going anywhere. Even back when I was in youth basketball, our coaches would say, it's a lot easier to guard a pole than it is to guard something that's moving.
The ball moves faster than a player can. You know what I mean?
A lot of the dribbling wasn't, water bug dribbling. It was literally just pound, pound, pound and see what we could have. Mm-hmm. I don't know yet if Evans is a pound, pound, pound guy. I don't know how long the ball sticks with him. I didn't get into that in any of the conversations. However, IQ, the scoring that you see on film from Colorado State, they've seen in Chapel Hill. Mm. So you've got a point guard or a lead guard. You might want to call him a lead guard and not a point guard right now. There's a guy that can get the ball in the basket. So what that's going to do, perhaps, is that will allow for a lot of other stuff to materialize, where the connected passes come from the wing, they come from kickouts. If you've got a point guard that can score, and you got a couple other dudes in the wing that can score, and you got a big like Vasar that can just move around and score at the rim and hit the 10-footer and hit the 3-pointer on a pick and pop, that kind of thing, then I think that's the way Hubert wants to spread the floor, where there's movement and all 5 guys have to be respected by the defense. Then your assists are going to sort of be spread around. If you have a point guard averaging 9 assists a game, but everyone else is like 2 or less, it's the same thing as the point guard being at 3.5, 4 a game, and a few other dudes at 2.5, 3, and then even your big is like 2, that kind of thing. So the assists, if they come from a lot of people, in the way basketball is played today, that makes you an increasingly difficult team to defend. So I'm only supposing there that I can envision that being the case, and that's what you would want if your point guard is not a high-volume assist guy. But IQ and feel, take from it what you will. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see a lot more of this team moving forward. But as the first two things said, the scoring you see on tape from Colorado State is in Chapel Hill, and there's an IQ there. The IQ thing was the question mark. Mm-hmm. Not that he doesn't know basketball, but you can know basketball, but do you play like you know basketball? Mm. That's the difference. And there's a head up and an awareness to his game that I think will serve this team well. I think he has a chance to be better than, maybe play at a higher level next season than anybody that's coming. And by the way, you didn't mention Luka. Luka's not there yet.
Yeah.
At the time that we're recording this, so we're not going to talk about him. But I think Evans has the chance of being the guy that plays at a higher level more than anybody else than what's anticipated going in. I like his game a lot. I like his feel. I like the way he plays. There's just something about his game that he's this guy that was under-recruited and could end up being a big time player.
Yeah, and then that's product of the portal and what can kind of happen for you nowadays.
In the NBA now, there's a lot of dudes in the NBA that are good that were way under recruited going.
Oh, yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Again, the portal's really opened that up for people. But yeah, it's good to hear. You'd rather be hearing that than
I talked to somebody recently whose son played on AAU team with Donovan Mitchell, and he's like, Donovan Mitchell wasn't considered no one had any idea he would be what he's become. Like, no idea. Good player. Oh, he'll go play 4 years in college, be a solid player, get a degree, and move on with life.
Now look out.
I think he's done a little better than that.
Yeah, you just never know, man. It's all about development and, continuing to get better. And yeah, I think Kion Evans, a very important position, obviously, for the Tar Heels too. They need him to be good next year. If he comes in and is not a good assister and doesn't shoot the ball very well, then I think Carolina's in massive trouble next year.
That's a different pod. We're going to do a different drop. Who's the most important of the newcomers? I mean, there's plenty of time before the season comes, but I think Kion Evans might be the most important because you have to be stable there. It's like quarterback. You have to be stable there, at least competent. You don't have to have a quarterback that's Peyton Manning, but if you have a competent quarterback that you can run a lot of stuff off of, that might be enough. I mean, teams have won national championships with dudes like that. If you have that at point guard, that's vitally important. You've got to be competent there. If he's not competent there and he's really a wing guard and they have no point guard, then they are in trouble.
Yes, they are. And we've talked about that in some podcasts, but yeah, we will do some more in the future, kind of honing in on those specific positions a little bit more and the importance that they have for North Carolina. But just to wrap up the guards before we go into the freshmen and head on out of here, Jonathan Powell, Jaden Young, I mean, guys we've talked about that we kind of expect to be in different capacities, but guys coming off the bench for the Tar Heels and filling important roles. Obviously, Jaden Young, Virginia Tech transfer, a lot of experience in the ACC. And then Jonathan Powell, still young, but big, with that Big 12 experience, that's something you want. So what are you hearing about those guys? I think Powell, at least on paper, should make them a longer team and a better shooting team. And I think Young, a little bit of a wild card, but that experience and some of that athleticism, I think, especially in ACC play, I think could really be a big positive coming off the bench for the Tar Heels. So have you heard anything about those guys in particular?
Not much Powell, and that's on me. I should have asked more. I should have asked. I didn't ask.
There's a lot of new guys. I mean,
I didn't ask any specific questions about him, and I should have. I will next time. But I will once again. Every time Powell comes up, I urge Carolina fans. ESPN. If you go to standings, click West Virginia, go back to last year's stats, click his name, and then click the game log. Their game log is great. Follow his rebounding in the game log. Just do that. Start from the beginning of the season on down. Follow the rebounding. And you're going to see a guy whose game changed over the course of time. And he wasn't just a standing out on the perimeter guy. Most of his shots were threes, but he suddenly became a little bit more of a rebounder, which means he got more aggressive, which means he was more confident. Mm-hmm. So that's a big thing. But I didn't ask about him. I didn't ask about Jaden Young, what was volunteered, that he's been very aggressive. He's got a lot of spirit, and that he's sort of a forgotten guy. He's a throw-in because he's not really didn't ask for money, that kind of thing. Although he's getting money.
Yeah.
That having him wherever he's going to be in the rotation, but toward the back end of the rotation, makes us a deeper team than last year. In reliability, you didn't know what you were going to get. Just that game log, go look at Ian Jackson. All right? The game log, go look at the rebounding for Jalen Washington. So Carolina, Hubert did not know what he was going to get from a lot of those guys. I think based on what these dudes have done before, and even if they're the same player or there's a little bit of an uptick, which there should be, he's got a pretty solid idea probably, or he will, what he's going to get from these guys once November gets here. And in a guy like Jaden Young, you've got a confident guy, a guy who's had some big scoring games in the ACC, so it's not like he's wet behind the ears. I don't think you have someone who's going to go out there and defer the whole time. So there's going to be some confidence on the floor, and there's going to be some confidence and experience well into the rotation. And that's kind of the read on him right now. But he's aggressive, pleasantly surprised. He's will play into contact. He's not just there to wear a uniform and say, wow, look, Mom, I made it. Take a picture of me. He's there to play ball. That's what I was told.
Yeah, again, I think that experience especially is what you want. And I think that's a big plus. We talked about it when he committed in that podcast of like, again, if he's coming in to be your starting guy, then okay, that's a little bit of a concern. But just having a guy like that with the experiences he has coming off the bench, I mean, that's invaluable to me because you need guys that have played and competed in this league, especially. And he's definitely done that. Yeah, he wants to be there too. That's huge, man, in today's world because a lot of it's transactional based, and that was not the factor when it came to him in particular. So we'll focus on the freshmen real quick, and then we'll head on out of here. Obviously, a decent class coming in. Derek Dixon, Isaiah Dennis and Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson kind of being the guy that people I think are probably most excited about. But again, like you've said in a couple of pods, I don't think you shouldn't discredit what Dennis and Dixon can potentially do as well. So what are you hearing about? To my knowledge, based on our conversation, it seems like there's been a lot of positive talk about Caleb Wilson's kind of work ethic on his game this offseason. I think that's a big positive. He's a guy that we think could potentially end up starting for North Carolina, as the David Sisk says. You don't bring in a guy like Caleb Wilson to sit him on the bench. So what are you hearing about those three freshmen in particular? Feel free to start with Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, nothing about Dixon or Dennis, and I didn't really ask much. There's plenty of time to get information on them. Obviously, people want to know about Caleb Wilson, and I was very curious because Caleb puts out little videos, or some people put out videos of him working on stuff, and he's knocking down shots that people question whether or not he can knock down. So I just want to know, what's he like? What's he doing? And the first thing that came out was workout. Boy, he works on his game. I mean, he is a madman working on his game. He understands that there is a plan on how he wants to be as a player down the road. He's not there yet. And people in business will tell you that you have to have a plan of attack to achieve something. Then you have to be able to attack your plan. And that Caleb Wilson is a guy who apparently has a plan of attack, and he's attacking his plan. So I wasn't given specifics other than the fact that he's very active. I think that he's a guy, to be perfectly honest with you, that could defend at the 5 because he's strong, he's active, he's confident. We'll find out if he's foul prone, guarding a banger, playing from behind an opposed player. That will be determined over time, but it's certainly something that they have plenty of time to work on right now. But from the attributes that he has, he could be a backup at the 5 if you're in a tight game and Vasar sprains an ankle or Vasar's in foul trouble and you don't really want to have Brown or High out there backing up and getting a lot of minutes, you can go Stevenson at the 4 and Wilson at the 5 and just have 2 big guys down there. I mean, they could drop and double depending on where the other team's 4 is. So there's a lot of stuff that they can do. And I wouldn't pigeonhole him strictly as a 4. I don't think he's a 5 at the next level, but you can help out at 5 at this level. And if it means keeping him on the court another 5 minutes in a game, then I think that they might do that. So there's a work ethic. There's an understanding of their aspects of the game that must get better. Otherwise, the college teams will exploit that. They will force you to play and to do things that you're not that good at. So the stuff that he was great at in high school and that you've seen on film the last few years, a lot of the work is on other stuff to have a more well-rounded game. He's a smart guy. My understanding is that he really knows himself as a player, and that there's a lot of stuff that must be done. And he is not wasting any time trying to get those things taken care of. He's got a lot of rough edges to smooth out, and he's okay with that. A lot of players reject it, and they play to their strengths, and then you wonder why after 3 years haven't they improved much? I think Caleb Wilson is totally about understanding the need to improve. And and not just play games, but work on stuff. He's really impressive in individual workouts is what I've been told. And we were told that before he got there. And I think that's one of the reasons he puts some of those clips out there and others do. He wants people to see that he works his butt off, that there's more. He's not walking in here to Carolina thinking, hey, hand me something because I'm the number 5 player in the country or whatever he is, depending on the recruiting service. There's a lot more basketball down the road for him. Chapel Hill's obviously a pit stop, but he wants to make the most of this pit stop. So that to me is probably the best thing. I didn't need to hear that, boy, he can score around the rim.
Yeah, we know that.
10-footer. That stuff is there. But where's the engine? Where's the motor? Can that motor be relied on to stay humming for 38 games next year? Because there are motors that have come in the last however many years in Chapel Hill that didn't always hum. Yeah. And when they didn't hum, it was pretty obvious looking in a box score the motor wasn't humming.
It's exactly what you want to hear from your 5-star, kind of.
And even if he's not super prolific statistically, maybe he's 10 and 6.5.
Take that.
But if the motor's humming and you've got a guy who will help defensively, and you've got a guy that will box out, and he may not get the rebound, but Vasar does, and you've got a guy that will set a legitimate screen and not be afraid of contact. If he has those other attributes with all that supreme talent, he's going to help his draft stock big time. Look at how intangibles have helped Drake Powell move up the draft. If you have Caleb Wilson's skill and potential in those other intangibles, he's going to make himself a lot of money being that player. And the understanding is there is a commitment to him being that player.
Mm-hmm. Marvin Williams.
I'll check back in a month and see if he's still doing those things.
Marvin Williams, 1 year at Carolina, 11 points, 6 rebounds.
And Marvin Williams came off the bench and he was committed. Go watch Marvin Williams set a screen as a freshman. I'll tell you right now, Roy Williams may tell you this too, but I don't think Roy had to tell Marvin, had to correct him on something a second time, because Marvin was wired for the whole of the picture. I'm not going to say, no one has said, hey, Caleb, the people I talked to, I'm not going to say if there's any connection to Marvin Williams or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb might be that kind of guy. If he gets told something a second time, it's a physical mistake. He's working on, it's like if you're in hitting, if you're you work in the off season on not taking as much of a stride on your swing. A lot of guys don't even stride at all anymore. It's a constant fix. Mm-hmm. So there's things that are repeated over and over. But from a mental standpoint, from a you cut the wrong way on this play standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Wilson's the kind of player that Hubert or Sean or whoever tells him once and they don't have to tell him again.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I brought him up too is because, again, you talked about that stat line. Even if Caleb Wilson comes in and averages 10.6 rebounds, yeah, that'd be good for Carolina. I mean, Marvin Williams got an incredibly important role in a national championship winning team, 11.6 rebounds.
In fairness to that example, Marvin also had a bunch of first round draft picks on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Had a lot of talent on their roster. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Marvin Williams that year would be the go-to guy on this team.
Oh God. Yeah. He would be the man.
And so people don't accuse us of just all roses and butterflies and all that crap. I'm checking in to find out what the early returns are.
And again, we've been balanced because we've come on a lot of these podcasts and been very skeptical.
And the people I talk to, you want to know what the positive, like what pops. Well, in June, good stuff pops. Because a lot of times you don't have the opportunity to see where the bad stuff can come out yet.
Yeah, it's like talking to a football coach in June and July. Everything's rosy. He ain't lost a game in a long time. And everybody's excited
Bill
about the season.
Yeah. Bill Belichick. I'm starting to figure out some of his isms, if you will, and one of them is, well, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, he's not lying, right?
No, right? I think this is a wait and see football team.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing.
I think there are a lot of similarities with football and basketball.
Yeah, I think there are, especially this
year.
They
brought in a lot of really good football players, but a lot of fans weren't wow. I mean, Andrew Simpson, I think there was a lot of wow with that, but there's some really intriguing guys that the whole of it could make them a better team, certainly on defense. And in basketball, there's a lot of really intriguing guys. I guess Luka was a wow also because they desperately needed someone there. So I think there was more of a wow that came with that. But there could be guys that weren't super wow at this time that could be super wow in 7 months, 8 months from now, 9 months from now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think
but there's a total wait and see mode for both teams right now. It's kind of cool, Jacob. It's kind of cool going into it that we don't really know.
That's the approach you want to take, man. We'll wait and see. I mean, this is not a dig on Mac Brown, but one of the things I used to get annoyed with Mac Brown is he'd come out in the middle of the summer or whatever preseason, like, yeah, it was the best offensive line I've ever had. And you're like, based on what? Look, and then they go in the season and they're not very good. And people are like, well, you said this. That's a dangerous territory to live in. Just say, we'll wait and see. We'll see.
A lot of respect for Mac, but a couple of areas I got to the point where I didn't even write the story the last time. This is the best coaching staff I've had.
Like, oh, no,
this is the most connected coaching staff I've had. No, I didn't write that story last time because I already wrote it before.
Yeah, I mean, AJ,
there were too many changes in the staff. I'm not writing that story.
We spent multiple preseason podcasts last year being like, okay, he said the offensive line is going to be best O-line he's had, and we're sitting here like, all right, where's he getting this from? Well, we couldn't quite figure it out.
So, and look, Matt, lots of coaches want to be positive. Mac's an uplifter.
Oh, yeah.
Mac's an uplifter.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's not a realist. I'm just saying that's the image that's what we got. Okay.
I'm more of a wait and see kind of guy.
Belichick is just, he's based.
Play it safe, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And how does he know? You'd been in the job for a few months. You don't know how good this team's going to be.
More like Mac.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I told James Brown that his jersey's going to hang in the rafters.
Yeah. Hubert's had his moments.
The only coach walking the planet that would say that, and I'm talking like second grade coaches, right? That would say that is Hubert Davis. I mean, I have mad respect for Hubert in 1,000 ways, and I don't think he's a bad basketball coach, like some people watching do. But he hopes, he says what he hopes and wishes, and what he envisions. And boy, wouldn't this be great? And I think it's okay. That's his way of doing things.
People just go back onto it. People hold you to it kind of thing. Like, well, you said this. That's the territory you live in when you're a coach, especially at a school.
I wonder how many Super Bowl rings Brady got before Bill Belichick said, yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, it probably took him a few, probably. Yeah.
And that's great. I'm looking forward to it because I love the differences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be fascinating. Just a year for football and basketball, to say the least, for different reasons. But yeah, I do agree. I think there are some similarities between the two because there's just so many new faces. And I think you can make a case for both teams, like we've talked about, of like, yeah, it's hard to really know what either team's going to do. You have to go on a little bit of a limb, especially because there's just no evidence of what these new guys are capable of doing yet. We just don't know. So
it makes it fun. From my standpoint, it makes it fun. It makes fans nervous. Yeah. To me, it's fun because I have no idea.
Yeah, you'd rather not know, or I think it makes it a little more interesting from a journalistic perspective for sure. So, yeah, man, let's head on out of here. A little bit longer than we thought we might go, but we kind of decided let's talk about these guys individually a little bit and break it down as much as we can. So, good little bit of intel.
Thought we would go.
Yeah, and that's part of the course here at TarIllustrated.com. But good little intel stuff from you, AJ. Well done getting some of that stuff. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what this team can do. And still a little skeptical. Like I said, we've been very balanced with our approach here. We've been a lot of podcasts where we've sit here and said, this team, there's a lot of question marks around this team. But we wanted to see what the positives were and what kind of stuff people were talking about behind the scenes, because everybody loves everybody in the middle of June. You're the best team in the country right now in the middle of June. You hadn't lost a game in a while and you don't play for a while. So good to hear a lot of these things.
Savannah State's fired up right now.
Yeah, man, every team in the country is going to win the national championship next year at this point.
The Pacific Tigers are thinking West Coast Conference Championship.
Yeah, that Cinderella story. Yeah, man, it's a beautiful time of year, man. Keep the vibes high over here. So I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. As we said earlier, keep it locked to all our social media channels. We'll have a lot of announcements coming up in some time in the near future. So Facebook, Twitter, just keep it locked there, and obviously our website and the YouTube channel as well. Subscribe. Notification bell as always. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks.